Oh, you're live. Go right ahead, Ms. Newsome.
All right, thank you. I'll call to order the Monday, July 20th, 2020 Finance and Purchasing Committee. Roll call, please.
Alderman Moiseo,
Here.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Here.
Alderman Rivera,
Present.
Alderman Seeger. Alderman Seeger, can you raise your hand?
I have muted.
Okay. And Alderman Newsome.
Present. Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from July 20th. No. Motion to approve the minutes from March 2nd, 2020. Motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Kirkwood. Are there any questions? Oh, roll call, please. Are there any questions first and then roll call?
Would you like to do a voice vote or do we do roll call because it's Zoom?
I thought we had to do roll call
Okay.
on
Yeah,
Zoom.
we have to do the roll call.
You have to do
okay.
roll.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seeger,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Public comment, were there any questions called in for finance? Public comment?
No, I'm sorry. There has been no comments from the public.
All right, thank you. So we'll go to new business. Item A, motion to approve the 2020 Tourism Community Marketing Partnership in the amount of $31,500 with the Lake County, Illinois Convention and Visitors Bureau. Motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Kirkwood. I know Miss Reedy is on. Are there any questions regarding this?
Just,
Alderman
Newsom,
Alderman Moiseo?
I'm just curious. I mean, I don't mind. We do this all the time, and I think we get a pretty good bang for the buck. But I mean, maybe Miss Reedy can give us a quick. I mean, with everything going on, we're not getting any tourism anywhere.
Right.
And no fault of theirs, obviously. I just don't know. Is there any? Do they have any? I don't know what the word I'm looking for.
We can let her speak to it.
Maybe, because I mean, I just, in case we get questions about why are we spending this money, there's nothing going on anyway. But I mean, not that it won't happen sooner. So I'm just curious if she's got anything to say. That's all.
Ms. Marine?
Yeah, I can't get my video on though. I think you have to turn me on. It says that the host has to start the video. So you can't see my face, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
That's all right.
Well, you can talk.
Yeah.
Okay. The host has asked you to start your video. Okay. Let's see if I appear. Hey,
There you go.
I wanted you to see my video because look at the beautiful background.
Yes.
It's my favorite background. I use it all the time. It's Waukegan Harbor. But no, I think that's a really good question. Because yeah, obviously the hotels and the restaurants have just, done anything they can to survive during this pandemic. But so we really had to pivot now and really speak to residents and work with our partners and really try to identify things that we could do for our partners to really support them during this time period. And one of the things we did was create a new section on our website called Lake County at Home. And it's a hub for information on hotels that are open, restaurants that are offering takeout, community resources, virtual events, tours, those kinds of things. So we developed this whole new website and have really tried to engage in conversations with residents and really get them thinking about supporting their communities and getting out there. And a new initiative that is coming up soon is we're doing a Lake County Restaurant Rally. So it'll be modeled after the Lake County Restaurant Week we do in the spring. And this will be 10 days focused on supporting restaurants throughout Lake County. And any restaurant could participate in this. And we've got over 100 restaurants that committed to be part of it. There's no cost. And what we've added as kind of an incentive is restaurants are giving us these gift cards. And then we are developing this mobile app so people can check in when they go to a restaurant, and then they can be registered to win a gift card from that restaurant. So I said we have over 100 restaurants throughout the county, and we have 6 of them in Waukegan. So we were happy with that. And it's just a chance to really speak to residents and get them out there supporting these restaurants who are just desperately doing everything they can, as you know, to stay open.
Right.
And we're kind of developing these road trips too, to get people from Chicago, maybe come up and just kind of drive through Lake County and, you know, check out the new experiences. And so just talking to people about when they're ready and they feel safe and comfortable about coming to Lake County and to Waukegan again. So I think we still have to be out there. Our message still has to be there. And because you have so much recreational opportunities and wide open spaces, and you still got some kind of cool events going on. Some of them are virtual, but we're doing a lot to promote those as well, like the Ray Festival coming up. We'll be promoting that. So there's still a lot of messages out there, and it's just really talking about reassuring residents and encouraging them to get out and support Waukegan during this time period.
I thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Any
That's
questions? Alderman
Well,
Moiseo?
That's just that's perfect. Just so long in case we get any questions from the public about what are we getting for it. It's not like these guys are sitting on their hands doing nothing. They're actively trying to promote. So that's all I needed, just in case I got any questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? We'll take a roll call then.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
and Alderman Newsome.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Reedy.
Thank you. Appreciate your support and your vision and your understanding of the importance of tourism.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item B, motion to authorize the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement by and between the County of Lake and the City of Waukegan to participate in the COVID-19 Relief Fund. I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Kirkwood, second by Alderman Seager. And this is, at this time, allocation, 9 million for municipalities, 1 million is for the fire protection districts. The maximum available allocation for each taxing body is determined based on population, and the intergovernmental agreement between the county and the requesting taxing body will be required prior to any reimbursements. So are there any questions regarding this? If there's none, roll call, please.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item C, motion to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Kane McKenna and approve fees not to exceed $30,500 for the purposes of completing an independent feasibility study regarding the issuance of TIF revenue bonds in accordance with the redevelopment agreement by and between the City of Waukegan and Bridge McGaw Land LLC, and further to waive the public bid process pursuant to section 2-458 subsection I for professional services. Motion by Alderman Rivera, second by Alderman Moiseo. Are there any questions to this motion?
I have a
Alderman
question.
Rivera?
Now there are 2 sections of this contract, correct? One, the first one is for the feasibility study, which is like, I believe $8,000. And then the second one for the actual implementation phase, which is $22,000. Is that correct?
Right, the way they propose this, the first is just to do the feasibility study to see if at this time, the issuance of TIF revenue bonds is feasible, given current market conditions, real estate conditions, et cetera. If that is determined, then you would need to have a formal feasibility study once again to support the issuance itself. But any TIF bond or any kind of bond that would be issued would still have to separately come back to City Council for approval. So I just placed this on the agenda as one item. in part because it will be over 25,000 if they do both sections. And I didn't want it to look like we weren't bringing it forward, that we were doing this study. But we could certainly amend it to just approve the first part of it, or we could approve both. But the second part wouldn't happen unless bonds were approved separately by city council at some point in the future.
Okay. Okay, no, and that's satisfactory.
Tina?
Alderman Moiseo?
Yeah, along Alderman Rivera's question. That just makes it a little bit more efficient than coming back to us. We approve this and then go back and do that. I'm just making sure that's why you did that way, I'm assuming, just to be more efficient.
Correct. And they might come back with this feasibility study and say the market wouldn't support TIF revenue bonds right now for that area. And then a bond issue wouldn't occur. But according to the redevelopment agreement, and the developer has prompted and made this request, the city has to make best efforts to issue revenue bonds at some point. We don't have to do it. We just have to make best efforts. So hiring an independent consultant to do a feasibility study is in accordance with that agreement.
And also, Kane McKenna, how many of these have they done for us? I think they're the only name I've ever heard when it comes to the TIF.
There's a couple of firms that do this, but Kane McKenna is definitely very, very familiar with the city of Waukegan and Lake County in general. They do a lot of work in the collar counties. So they are also, they've worked recently with us, they've worked historically with us, and they really do understand TIFs in the collar counties in Illinois.
Got it. Thank you, Tina.
But just Tina, just to be clear, they come back and say, just on the off chance that they come back and say, we've done the feasibility study, it's not feasible to do this, we're just on the hook for the 8,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any more questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item D, motion to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Kayenta, a division of N. Harris Computer Corporation, and approve fees not to exceed $394,000 for the purposes of upgrading the city's enterprise resource planning ERP system, and further to waive the public bid pursuant to section 2-458 subsection I-1 sole source. This project will be funded from the water and sewer revenue bonds. Motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Seager. Are there any questions to the motion? This is an upgrade to, go ahead, Alderman
I'm
Rivera.
sorry, this is an upgrade to like our operating and billing systems?
I think this is with the water.
Would you like me to address that?
Yes, Tina,
Sure.
yes.
Okay, so our enterprise planning system is water and sewer customer accounts, billing and work orders, but it is also all of our receivables, business licensing, liquor licensing, daycare center licensing. It's our general ledger, our budgeting system, our accounts payable system, our purchasing system, our payroll system, and our human resources system. So it's the full financial system for this, and our cash registers, our cashiering system as well.
Okay, thank you.
What version do we currently have? I know it's upgrading to 9.0.
We're on 7.9 now.
Okay,
The current version is 9.0. The last upgrade was done, I don't know if Eric's, I can remember, I think 2010 or 2011. And at that point, I think we were 8 versions behind. So this upgrade is about 8 to 10 years since we've had the last one.
Do you anticipate any downtime while you're doing this conversion, or?
No, Kayenta has a really nice mirrored system. There's Kayenta Production, that's our live system, and we also have Kayenta Test.
Okay.
And once a quarter, we refresh all of the information in Kayenta Test. So you can literally run a payroll, do billing, do all of that in Test. So what we'll do is we'll probably have a 90 days or plus where we will have version 9 in Test with our actual data, so that we can kind of work out all of the kinks and do all of the testing. And then our plan is to go live for the January 1st, maybe a week ahead of time.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Kirkwood.
So Tina, can you tell me how many versions are we behind at this time?
There were, I'm not quite sure. I know there were several versions in 8 that we did not go to. I'm not quite sure how many versions in 8 there were. We just never had the funding to do that. But I would guess a minimum 10 versions behind, if not more.
So how does that, if we were up to date, does that make our accounting system, our finance more?
Well, there's a couple of benefits. First of all, for support. So we're actually so far behind at this point when they release patches, bug fixes, things like that. They have to specially program it for 7.9. We have to remind them we're on 7.9. Can you please send us the patch too? So not all the patches anymore are still being provided for 7.9. So for example, and I spoke to Alderman Taylor virtually about this earlier today via email. So for example, the Tax Act changed the W-4s. So 2020 is the last year that employers can use the old tax tables and the old W-4s, and you have to go to the new W-4s January 1st, 2021. Kayenta is not going to program that for 7.9. They have very, very few customers still on 7.9, and even fewer of those that use their payroll module. So from a support standpoint, we are looking to upgrade. The other nice thing about 9.0, part of the reason we waited, is they have these Connect products now. There's Connect Employee, Connect Finance, and there's self-service portals that are secure and web-based. So for example, an employee, instead of having to fill out a direct deposit form and scan it to an email or fax it or drop it in interoffice mail, they can secure onto their secure profile and update their direct deposit information, and that would feed right into our system. Paychecks will be able to be, or direct deposit stubs will be able to be downloaded. We won't have to print those out anymore and mail those. W-2s will be the same. So there's a lot of security reasons we'd also like to update.
Okay, thank you.
No more questions? Alderman Florian? Alderman Florian?
I know I'm not technically part of this committee, but am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
You mentioned that you haven't upgraded in the past because we didn't have the funds. And it seems like this is an odd time to be spending money if that's our normal criteria. So can you just speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So this was actually contemplated in the bond issuance as a bond-funded capital project. It would be capital in nature due to the size and the life of the asset that would be upgrading. So this was planned. We have the bond proceeds in hand. This would not be coming out of operating dollars whatsoever.
Okay, so these are bonds that were already issued, not the ones that are on the agenda for today.
Correct. This would be coming out of the 2018 bond fund bucket.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Taylor?
Well, I think most of us are all concerned about spending money right now. I think this is a crucial time that this is a project we need to spend these dollars on, because I think pretty soon our software is so old, we won't be able to get any support. There'll be no patches available. So we're going to hit kind of a brick wall soon. So I think we have to do this. Even though it's expensive, I think we're just in that place that we don't have a choice at this point. So.
Alderman Kirkwood?
So Tina, what would it take for us to, dollar-wise, to get up to the correct version over time, so we don't get in a position where we can't do the patches, we're not as efficient as we need to be because we're still doing paper stubs and mailing those out, where if we could go to the email system and everything else. Could you get back to us sometime in the future and say, this is what it would take for us to get up to speed where we should be, and how we can do that through bonds over time?
Sure. Well, this is actually, this would get us there. It's going to be between, I'm sorry, my cat's in the background. It's going to be between around $400,000. And you don't necessarily want to do every version they release.
Okay.
So sometimes a version release might not have, say they do a version release to their building permitting module, which we don't have. So sometimes the releases aren't necessarily something we'd be interested in doing. Even this version 9.0 with the Connect functionality, it was either last year or the year before where Eric and I both attended the Kayenta conference when it was in Chicago. And there were still some bugs that they were running into. So IT wasn't comfortable moving at that time. So I wouldn't say that we should upgrade annually with something as large as an ERP system, but 5 years is probably the longest best practice you should go. So going as long as we have, to Alderman Taylor's point, we're getting on the cusp of having difficulty with support. So we should plan on upgrading between every 4 to 5 years. And that would be about $250,000 to $500,000 each time you upgrade.
That's what I was going to ask. If that's something that we need to be looking at, like every 3 years to know exactly where we should be and how much money actually we're going to need, instead of waiting until the 5-year period. Should we look at it around 3 years to see how many more upgrades or new upgrades they've made to make sure that we stay,
Absolutely. And Kayenta is owned by Harris, which is a very large tech IT company. So they're pretty good at also working with us. They are giving us a discount on the man hours. And if you don't wait so long between upgrades, it's not as expensive because you're not having to mine so much data. So yeah, it's something that we should plan to do. It's certainly capital investment in its nature. So I would say 5 years is probably a good amount of time to go.
Okay.
It is disruptive to do an upgrade too, so you don't want to do it every year.
Okay. All right. Are there any more questions? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye. Motion carried. Item E, motion to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Southern Police Equipment and approve fees not to exceed $30,000 for the procurement of public safety equipment, and further to waive the public bid process pursuant to section 2-458 subsection I-1 joint government purchasing reference GSA contract GS-07F-0273T. This project will be funded from asset forfeiture funds. Motion by Alderman Rivera, second by Alderman Seager. Are there any questions on this motion? There was a sheet that included all the ballistic helmets and face shields, body shields to purchase. Are there any questions? Being none, roll call.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item F, motion to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Peter Baker, the sole respondent to a public bid, and approve fees not to exceed $117,000 for the procurement of asphalt and related roadway commodities. Motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Kirkwood. Are there any questions to this motion? Being none, roll call, please.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item G, a motion to approve a resolution expressing official intent regarding certain capital expenditures to be reimbursed from proceeds of an obligation to be issued by the city of Waukegan, Lake County, Illinois. This item I spoke with briefly with Tina this afternoon for 25 million. I would like to hold this over until our next finance committee meeting, if there's no objections. Okay, so we can look at it a little closer and get a few more. I just want to look at it a little closer.
And I would agree,
A little
Alderman.
bit more information on it. That being said, we'll hold over item G. Item H, motion to authorize the mayor to execute a letter of intent with the Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, and further to authorize the city of Waukegan financial commitment of an amount not to exceed $6,600 relative to improvements of Illinois Route 120 at Oak Plain Road. This is not inclusive of utility relocation or other potential costs outside of the scope of IDOT's project. I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Seager, second by Alderman Kirkwood. Are there any questions to this motion? Being none, roll call, please.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye, motion carried. Item I, motion to approve the change order in the amount of $364,811.90 to the contract awarded to Peter Baker on August 5th, 2019 for roadway improvements for a total amount of $3,475,203 to bring the total contract award amount to $3,840,014.90. This project utilizes 2018 A GEO bond funds. I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Kirkwood. Are there any questions to this motion?
Alderman Newsom.
Alderman Moiseo?
Yeah, we got an itemized bill of what the change order was. That's
Yes,
just an enormous amount. I know it's bond money. We have to end up spending it anyway on roads and stuff like that. I just don't know. I guess my question is, how did we undershoot so well? Or undershoot, what the,
364,000.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, did we just decide, did the engineers just decide they're gonna do this much more work this year? Or do we know? Because I know Public Works is, sort of a little bit out of the loop on the road project. It's mostly Peter Baker and the engineer doing it. I'm just curious. They got the bill on what they did. But I just was, did we just undershoot? I don't know.
I see where the bulk, $288,989 resurfacing of Washington Street and Glen Rock Avenue and all of the materials, I guess, and everything else that that went into that. And then it's some resurfacing at North Point Boulevard. But was this included in the previous bid?
It looks like, if you're talking about that Washington, that must have been when that thing collapsed. So that may be the bulk of that work is.
I don't think this is the culvert.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But Mr. Hewitt's on the line too. I don't believe that's the case because the culvert was
finished.
kind of
last
its own
year.
standalone
Yeah.
project.
I understand that we had to do the resurfacing of that, because it really wasn't complete last year. So, and then I know they had to do the guardrails and all of that. But, and then they did, like I said, North Point Boulevard, Waukegan Road is included in that. It looks like some water main trench on Washington Street and some Water Street, various storm sewer trenches. But is Mr. Hewitt on?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, can you speak to this, or is someone else from the engineering firm on that can speak to this?
I don't know if Mark's there or not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't look
One
like
from
it.
IEI on the Zoom meeting, Mike.
Okay.
What it boiled down to was those were funds that we expended last summer. Those particular funds for the Washington Street project. There was a collapse in a drainage issue on West Street, I believe. North Point was included. These were issues that were last year expenditures.
Okay. All right.
So they,
Good enough.
so they should be finished about now. No more
Change
cost
order.
overrun, no change orders, right? No more change orders.
I really,
Go
Alderman,
ahead, Mike.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Alderman Taylor was first.
Alderman Taylor.
I guess my question is, like, I understand being $26,000 over or something like that, but 288.9, why wasn't the council even informed along the way? I mean, I'm sure even for knowing how much of the bond money we have left, that's a big bill to get. It should have come before now that we're finding out about this. You know what I mean? So that's my concern is, and how many more of these are we gonna have?
I think that, to speak on behalf of Mr. Hewitt, he can pipe in. I think that Public Works and Finance absolutely agree with you.
yes,
So we did have a very candid conversation with the engineers that are handling these projects and included Corporation Counsel in that conversation. And just reiterated to them that there are state statutory and local government ordinances that require approval prior to work being approved. You know, in private sector, it can be different, maybe, that you can have change orders approved by a manager or administratively, and that's simply not the case in local government. So we agree with you and we hear you, and you know, that's something that we are now, we do have protocols in place. We have ordinances and policies, and part of this was caught because Mr. Hewitt's staff is very competent and diligent, and they received an invoice that they didn't have a purchase order for. So they were the first to flag this issue. There may be more change orders coming on the sidewalk program as well. So this might not be the last one that you see for these programs. But, you know, we did have a discussion with them, a very frank discussion, and we hope that it's going to get everything back on track.
Okay.
Alderman
I mean,
Kirkwood. Alderman
Well,
Kirkwood.
Well, my concern is that the engineers need to work with Public Works so they know what's going on, because I feel like a lot of times the engineers are the Lone Ranger, and Mike and the crew finds out later that they're doing this and there's some change orders that need to go on, but the approval process hasn't been followed. So my concern is that the council should know about that, and certainly $200,000+ is not a little change order.
Right.
That we could do other things with those dollars to build up our infrastructure. And if we knew about this beforehand, we could make some more financial decisions in the future. So I just want to make sure that, you know, Mike is being informed regularly on what's going on, you know, with the program, and not just the engineers are making all the decisions. Maybe they're good decisions, but we still need to know what is going on, especially with now we're getting into the sidewalks, and I'm not talking about the onesie twosies. I'm talking about, you know, Peter Baker is working over off of Elmwood in Ward 4 and 3, you know, and I just want to make sure that, you know, we're on top of that.
Alderman Moiseo.
I agree with Alderman Kirkwood. Edie, you and I have been on the council a long time. The $300,000 plus change order is pretty big.
It is.
It's Ann, you've been here. That's a pretty big change order.
It's a big change order.
And I get it, but you know, the engineering firm, as Alderman Kirkwood has stated, does not get a blank check and get to decide everything, you know, on its own. It has to keep Mike and City Hall in the loop on what they're doing. And I guess, you know, some things may come up quick and we got to get that done. But a phone call to Mike to tell him that, and then Mike makes a phone call to us and said, hey, we got a change order coming up on this, you know, just so you guys aren't surprised. I mean, I saw that this whatever day I looked at the agenda and I said, holy Christ, the $384,000 change order, that's enormous. And Tina, I'm glad you guys addressed it going forward, but we got to have better communication with all of that, just so we know. So Tina, thank you for that.
Tina, I wanted to add too that, like Alderman Moiseo said, in the future, if there's some emergencies that pop up like they have done in the past, they would notify us as aldermen to let us know that something has come up, an emergency, and this has to be done. That way, when it's paid, we know ahead of time that it's going to be on the bill run or whatever to be paid. But if it's not done that way, I don't think the payment should be made. I think it should be held up.
Well, so I will pass along your concerns and thoughts to the engineer that's handling these projects. As far as an emergency, our city code does address emergencies. And if there is an emergency work that's done, and Mr. Hewitt's very good at doing this, it is supposed to come to the very next available city council meeting for approval. So there are provisions for that. I don't believe that Corporation Council, in reviewing these change orders, felt they met the emergency definition. That's why it's a regular change order. Holding payments up to a vendor, you could run against the Prompt Payment Act, which is also a state statute. So if Peter Baker, or I think this is Peter Baker, right? So if Peter Baker or whomever is the vendor that performs the work, even without city council approval, but if an agent of the city approved that work, I'm not sure we can legally withhold that pay. And I see that woke Bob up. So
I've been awake.
I'll let, or woke up your screen. So I'll let Bob address that, but I wouldn't recommend holding up payments. Especially, we don't want to miss recording, asset removals or asset additions on our balance sheet either. So we try to record our expenses in the period in which they occur to have sound financial reporting. But with that, I'll let Bob.
Well, a lump sum like this, it's
a whopping money.
It should have, hey,
Edie,
hold it up.
Edie.
Okay. Alderman Moore, we're gonna let Mr. Long and then you, Alderman Moiseo.
Yeah, Tina's recitation was basically correct. We did look at, once this was brought to our attention, and it was only brought, mind you, this is only a couple of weeks, only a week or two ago. This isn't like we've been sitting on this in our end of things. When we saw this, we did immediately ask for the meeting with the engineers, and we also reviewed it to see if this was in fact something you could term a genuine emergency. This is the money that was spent last year. You can't make an emergency out of something that happened last year. An emergency is what happened yesterday or the day before yesterday. It's a sewer pipe that broke and flooded somebody's basement. You didn't have any choice but to fix it. That's not what this stuff was. So as a result, when we brought it in, we have to treat it under the regular rules. So if it had been an emergency, you recall when we, I know Alderman Newsom and Alderman Moiseo, when we looked, and Alderman Taylor too, when we looked at the Washington Street collapse in the first instance, we called an immediate emergency meeting in the middle of the afternoon to tell you, we got a real problem we got to deal with, and it's got to be done emergency. That's an emergency. That's not what this is. Our conversations with the engineer was in fact candid, it was blunt, and I'm hopeful that they got the idea across, because the last thing any of us wants to have are pocketed invoices and not knowing how much was spent, losing track of how much was spent out of bond proceeds in particular. Because if you do have a cost overrun on a bond, you're going to end up having to pay that because the contractor doesn't know how your finances work and he can't be held to it. So you got to pay the contractor for the work they did and the materials they supplied to the city. But that may mean digging into your general account, and that's not the right way to do this. This was a bond project. It was supposed to be the bond. It needs to be the bond. It needs to be done correctly. And we got all those points across. Hopefully I can never predict 100% that people have always gotten the message when we've delivered, but we've done everything we can to deliver that message.
Well, we'll have to start using somebody different if they don't get the message.
That's correct.
Alderman Moiseo?
yeah, just to make sure we make clear, this wasn't Peter Baker's fault. They were just told to do the work, and they did the work by the engineering firm. So I'm glad Corporation Counsel and Tina cleared that up, that they had a nice conversation with the engineering firm. And I hope they understand that they do not have a blank check as to what's going on in the city of Waukegan. I told you, I had my reservations earlier about how the way the road program was going. So in the future, going forward, they got to be a little bit more communicative, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, roll call, please.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Moiseo,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera,
Aye.
Alderman Newsom.
Aye, motion carried. Reports and communications, Ms. Smagelski.
Sure, I'll just, review and let you know that the monthly reports are included. The water consumption summary for June is attached. Surprisingly, unlike some of our peers, we're really not seeing a hugely negative impact of COVID-19 on water consumption. We do have a very nice, diverse group of customers, commercial, residential, wholesale. So because of the rate increase that was in May 1st, even with some reductions in consumption on the commercial side, like hotels, for example, our water revenues seem to be doing okay. The one area where we did see a complete drop off was late fees, shut off fees, because we had the emergency mayoral order. It is not included in this agenda, but I did email all the aldermen. We have included a stuffer starting last week. So everyone in the city, when they get their bill, will know that starting in August, late fees will start being applied to accounts again. Business and rental license applications are slow, obviously, with the lagging economy, but we've attached those. The video gaming report, there is no video gaming report. Video gaming did not resume until July 1st, so there's no report for the month of June. We did pass at City Council a push tax, and we had staff include an update here from the Collections Division of the Finance Department. On June 4th, we did send a letter out to all of the registered gaming operators from the Illinois Gaming website, just relaying to them that we do have this push tax in place, asked them to register. We sent a follow-up letter on the 10th. We've attached all of the information that we sent, and we have 13 operators so far in Waukegan. 3 have registered, and we continue to follow up on that information as it becomes available. The food and beverage and hotel tax collection report is attached under executive content because it is not subject to FOIA. The hotel and food and beverage revenue obviously has been impacted by COVID-19. So we are providing that information. The stabilization fund report is also attached. We continue to be in compliance with our resolution and are above our minimum balance amount. The minimum balance amount for Waukegan is only 1 month's worth of expenses of the general fund. We do currently have loans to a couple of internal service funds, which are really just timing issues. Of note, we are now loaning payroll and benefit cash to the CDBG fund. Payroll and benefits, they were approved by HUD, but the funds have not been released. So you will see a growing loan to CDBG probably for the next 90 to 100 days until HUD releases that funding. The budget to actual report is also attached. A couple of things to just call your attention to. Revenues, particularly in the general fund in the area of taxation, excluding property taxes, are trending lower than the prior fiscal year at the same point in time. Things like sales tax are 3 months in arrears. So sales taxes paid in February are recorded by the city in May. They're received to us in May. So we really won't see that April and May impact on sales tax until July and August in our budget to actual report. So if there's any questions on the BTA or any of these others.
I have a question by Question by Alderman Rivera first, and then Alderman Moiseo.
Thank you. On the implementation of the push tax, you indicate that they're supposed to register, but I didn't see anything like giving them a deadline, or also what are we going to do if they don't register? Are we going to allow them to continue to service these businesses, or?
Right, so the registration is really for our benefit in the finance department, so we know who to look for every month when we're receiving, information or payments. Simply not registering with the city of Waukegan's finance department, I don't know that that could have any impact on their state issued license. We don't license these operators, we license restaurant owners. The state licenses video game operators. So we would like them to register so we know that who they are, who our contact person should be, but it wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't get them out of the push tax, and it also wouldn't really, I don't think, allow us to take any kind of action against them if they don't register. We are working with Corp Counsel. We do anticipate some resistance from some of these operators, and next month is when the payments are supposed to be remitted, and we will come back to the committee and update you on how that's going. We continue to have issues with some food and beverage operators paying the taxes on time as well. So there'll always be a group that doesn't want to pay taxes. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but we have been working pretty closely with Corporation Counsel, and we'll see how it goes. We had a couple operators that had no problem registered right away, and were real pleasant about it. And then we had one that registered under protest.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Moiseo.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Tina, she's always so calm about this. I mean, she could have just said that sales tax has gone to hell in a handcart, but that's okay. We all know that.
Is that it for your report, or did you have something else?
We also attached the special events report, but as you can see, everything's pretty much been canceled or withdrawn. We are seeing, which is kind of cool, we're starting to see some special events for like drive-by type events that people can do in compliance with the governor's executive orders. So it's not on this one. You'll see it next month. But we had a request to do at Fountain Square, to do a drive up, stay in your car movie night for families. So we're starting to see some creative things through the special event process that hopefully will be able to allow those to move forward and get people out enjoying themselves in a safe way.
All right. Thank you.
Quick question, Tina. Quick question.
Alderman Taylor.
How are we doing on, remember we hired the firm to look at these people who are delinquent? How are we doing with that?
The food and beverage and hotel tax audit. So when in February and March, we were still pursuing that pretty assertively. And when COVID-19 came and businesses said, can we get a postponement on this? We did grant those. Some of the larger franchise type that at corporate offices, they are currently participating in the audit and remitting their information, but some of the smaller firms or locally owned ones, we did grant them an extension. Also, the individual that was primary on that, Itzel Morales, is on maternity leave. She had a baby boy about, I guess a month ago now. So those two things kind of coupled put a little bit of a delay on it. But now that we're getting somewhat back to normal, the new normal, I anticipate in about August or September, we'll be able to bring a status report forward to you.
Okay, good.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Tina. If there's nothing else, I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Moiseo, second by Alderman Kirkwood, to adjourn at 7:09. Roll call, please.
Alderman Moiseo.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Alderman Seeger.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Council meeting in Clerk Kilkelly. I guess you know when our council meeting is going to start.
I would say 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, all
3 to
right,
5 minutes.
okay.
Thank you.